All right, we are live. Dane, Yash, not Dale. Dane. What's up, everybody? We're going to be talking about the best rep schemes specific for strength and muscle. And so we've got a pretty busy week ahead of us. One of the big things, let's start off with a t-shirt giveaway. Papo 1752. You commented on our rugby video. You are winning that free t-shirt. Andrew Johnston 5303. You are winning that free t-shirt off the full body workout. So we've got Papo 1752, Andrew Johnston 5303. This is how you can claim the prize. You can email us at support@garagestrength.com and that you won the giveaway and provide a screenshot of your YouTube studio using the same account that you use to enter the giveaway so that we can verify that you are indeed the winner. Okay, so Papo 1752, Andrew Johnson 5303. You guys won. Good thing your name's not Andrew Johnson, or is it Andrew Jackson? Both of those presidents were not the best. Yash, what's up? That's okay. At Dane, what's up, everybody? So some of the stuff that I want to get into, best rep ranges for strength. We're going to go through that, okay? And I'm going to answer some specific questions that we've got on the screen. I'm going to provide a specific research paper. You guys can see the chat over here. There we go. You guys can see the chat right here, and then we're going to get into these specific questions. So right off the bat, let's start off with, where are we? Why is my computer not working accordingly? I'm a little concerned here. Jason, I can't actually... There we go. It keeps shutting off on me. So Papo, there's the giveaway winners, okay? And then we're going to go into the first question. This first question is going to be, hey, Dane, when doing something like 8 sets of 2, okay, so 8 sets of 2. If somebody's going to be doing 8 sets of 2, we're trying to get big, we're trying to get strong. That's where we're rolling, okay? 8 doubles. Am I supposed to do that with a static amount of weight, or should I use some of those sets to ramp up and then increase my effort? And in which RPE range should I do them? Like 6, 7, 7.5, 8, 4, 7? Love your videos and greetings from Germany. So great question there from Christoph Klein, 5652. So from Christoph Klein, there's a couple big factors here. I think that when we're trying to address 8 doubles, okay, first I like to think about when are we doing them. We might do them during the ascension phase. We might do 8 doubles during the summit phase. Okay, so if we can look at when are we actually hitting those doubles, then in regards to what is our goal, are we trying to hit a monster max, a big, huge max double? Then we would use that to slowly ramp up. Now, sometimes if I want to make serious strength gains with an athlete, we might do 4 doubles, all static. So one of the questions that Christoph put in there is that if you're inside of peak strength, you would know, we'll use ramping, we'll use static numbers to guide our auto regulation. Okay, and so he did ask us about RPE. I like to use our actual tool on the Peak Strength app because you can see how hard. One of the things that we do here at Garage Strength, you can see how hard or how easy that was, is that we'll spot people and we can tell, okay, that was really hard. They might have 1 rep in reserve. Okay, that was like based off of this kid's actions in the past, that wasn't that hard. He's got 3 or 4 left in the tank. And that's sort of how we figure that out. But then you can use that inside of peak strength. So for 8 doubles, I really like going, okay, let's say 3 or 4 doubles static. That ingrains really good movement, and that can be at like 85 to 88%. So let's say we're doing back squat, or I would even argue, let's say we're doing cleans, right? 8 doubles, four of those doubles are going to be static, and then we might ramp slowly with those last 4 doubles. Okay, so that's sort of a way that you can really use both static and ramping. And I would say those last 4 doubles should be, if you're using reps in reserve, 1, a half, nothing, right? If you're using RPE, maybe that is around a 9, that last double, 9.5, something like that. But you would build into that point. If you're using peak strength, you just educate the app on how challenging that's going to be. But that's some of the best ways that you can increase strength. And if you're hitting 8 doubles, that's a decent amount of volume as well. There's a lot of working sets. Again, I love that for getting athletes as strong as possible. Benny Fink 6833. We're going to get into this one. The cold shower comment. Are cold showers bad after workouts or just ice plunges? Okay, so this is like a hot topic right now. how-to car guy is saying, what are you talking about? Is my 6X great grandpa? He was the best president. Okay. That's funny. Now, cold plunges or cold showers, are they bad? And this is a question from Benny Fink, 6833. Are they bad after workouts, or are just ice plunges bad after workouts? I think first, there's a decent amount of evidence that using something that's anti-inflammatory right around a workout, antioxidants, ice, specific like NSAIDs, something like that. If we're doing that right around a workout, that could have a decent hindrance on our recovery, and it could impact the actual inflammation response that we need to actually gain muscle mass. So that's where the cold plunges come in, and they can have a negative impact on recovery. They can have a negative impact on muscle protein synthesis. They can sort of stunt that pro-inflammatory response that we're looking for to lead to monster gains. As far as the cold showers are concerned, what's up, Steve? As far as the cold showers are concerned, Steve is one of our key members to our private lives, which is a freaking awesome community. You guys are a fantastic community of freaks. All of you are a fantastic community of freaks that you show up every Tuesday because you want to be remembered for something special. Also, if you want more information and more knowledge, show up to our Friday private lives. All you have to do is become a channel member. It's $10 a month. It's only $10 a month for a private YouTube live every Friday. Now, I'm going back to this. Cold showers, okay? So some of the cold shower stuff, I would argue there's not enough research to say one thing over the other. I do think it also depends on your region. You know, some people can get cold showers literally at like 45 degrees, which is going to be probably more so like Michigan, Canada in the wintertime, especially if they're using groundwater, right? That it's going to be really, really cold surface water. Now, I would argue I would just keep those cold showers like outside of an hour before training and then outside of like 3 to 4 hours post-workout. I would just keep the cold showers in the morning, keep the plunges in the morning, leave about a 3 to 4 hour time frame, 3 to 4 hour window, and I think that that's going to have a pretty decent impact on everything. I think that you'll be safe, you're still going to get pretty good gains, and you're still going to get good recovery. And this actually leads us, so Steve actually just commented about a sauna. This takes us into another question around this specific type of training tool. And so does anyone know what to do if I don't have access to a sauna? And so Steve actually just commented in the chat, I've heard sauna after lifting. I think sauna after lifting is fine. Okay, there's heat shock proteins. They're a protective mechanism that we can use. I do believe that they can stimulate and lead into some type of positive response. I also believe, I'm not answering Adam Croissant 9479's question yet, but I also think that anecdotally, this is total anecdotal, personal experience. But one thing I've actually done is recently, because I've been on this running kick, if you guys follow me on Instagram, Ghostface D Miller, I've been on this pretty big running kick. Okay. So I've been running like 5 days a week. And one of the things that I've been doing is that if I go for a run that's like 3 or 4 miles, it's not that long. I can run about 8 to 10 miles right now, and I can hold that clip. Okay. If I only run 3 to 4 miles at a higher tempo, I'll come in and I'll rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then I get into the sauna at like 165 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll sit there for 30 minutes. And I believe, I don't have the research to back this up, but I believe anecdotally that it can help increase your endurance through mitochondrial volume development. I don't have the research, but I believe that it can help with your long, slow distance, even if you're not doing that specific type of training on that specific day. And the reason why I believe that is because it really helped me be able to get my mileage up pretty quickly when I started to add that into my training. It also just could be a total, mentality thing. So Adam Croissant 9479 is asking, what can he do if he doesn't have access to a sauna? And I would say the first big thing is, do you have access to an LA Fitness? Do you have access to any public gym that you could potentially have a sauna at? And if you don't, if you're financially privileged enough where you're capable of purchasing an at-home sauna and you can afford the electric bill, you can purchase an at-home full-spectrum sauna or traditional finish sauna. They are quite expensive. So you can purchase them outside of that. Now, if you don't have access to an LA Fitness or a gym like that, and you're not privileged enough to afford to purchase a sauna, I would argue there's not a lot you can do. There's steam rooms and stuff like that. There's not a lot you can do. And I just say, like, make it a goal. Like, can you get to the point where you could afford to purchase one, where you're financially stable enough? I think that's a big thing. And I also think it's important to recognize, like, you don't have to have a sauna to become a freak. Okay. To become a freak, you don't need to absolutely have a sauna, but if you have one, it's going to benefit your training. So I think that's like the big factor here, is that just being aware, and understanding that it's not the end all be all, but it's like a little, it's like putting an Oreo cookie on top of your ice cream sundae. That's what it is. Okay. So I think that's an important thing. All right. One thing now, I want to get into, this study right here. Okay. And so we're talking about rep ranges for strength, rep ranges for size. A lot of people are asking about those specific rep ranges inside the chat. And I wanted to cover this specific article, effective inter-repetition rest versus traditional resistance training on the upper body strength rate of force strength, upper body strength, rate of force development, and triceps muscle architecture. And I'm going to say this. One of my favorite things is using the term architecture for like muscle size. And we actually shot a video this morning, a pretty sweet quad video that's going to be coming out in July. So you guys stay tuned to this quad video. It's one of those terms that I use a couple times, architecture of muscle. I just think it's cool. I also feel like we should be, this is a little bit of an aside before we get into this research paper from Zaris. I feel like we should be previewing inside of our lives. I feel like we should be previewing the next full length YouTube video that's going to come out. Like, what's that like trailer that we can provide you guys as like, hey, check out what's coming in a couple days. While you can still go over on Peak Strength and GSW, Garage Strength Weightlifting, and of course our Garage Strength podcast. So anyway, back to this study that we've got up on the screen right here. Okay, the purpose of this study was to examine the effect of 7-week inter-repetition rest versus traditional resistance training on upper body maximum strength, the rate of force development, and the size of your triceps. So 16 males were equally assigned into the inter-repetition rest and the traditional group. In both groups, training included the bench press exercise performed with 4 sets of 6 max reps, 2 training sessions per week. Okay, so what they're doing, 4 sets of 6 max effort reps, 4 sets, 6 maximum reps, and they're going to do that twice a week, and they're going to do that for 7 weeks. Now, 20-second inter-repetition rest was employed for the inter-repetition rest group only. So they'd hit a single, rack it for 20 seconds, do that again, hit a single, rack it for 20 seconds. So measurements before and after the training period included maximum strength, the isometric upper body rate of force development, and peak force. So that would be, they're going to max, let's say a max bench, right? Let's say next thing they're going to do is they have pins here and they push as hard as they can. So they're going to measure how much force are you putting in to the pins, and then how quickly did you put that into the pins. Okay, so that's how they would measure that. And then the triceps brachii muscle architecture. So the maximum strength increased significantly in both groups. So this was compared basically a cluster set. Okay, so hit a single, rest 20 seconds, hit a single. That's a cluster set. Okay, then the traditional resistance group, they're just doing 4 sets of 6, basically to 1 RIR pretty much. Okay. Strength significantly increased in both groups. So that's great. You can hit it in both groups. The maximum strength percentage increase was greater in the inter-repetition rest group compared to traditional group. So max strength, you get a better response from that cluster set. Okay, so you hit the cluster set, and we've done videos on the Mattis cluster set where we talk about this with back squatting. Better performance for for absolute strength from a cluster set. So this article right here is going to tell you, okay, so this one right here is going to tell you why the Mattis cluster set works from the perspective of research and peer-reviewed research, right? And then upper body isometric peak force increased only after inter-repetition rest training. So cluster sets, we saw an increase in isometric peak force. The rate of force development did not change for each one. So both were able to achieve a very large amount of force in a short period of time, and that didn't improve. But the rate, or the peak force, didn't really change, right? Yeah, increase only. The peak force, sorry, I apologize. The rate in which they got to peak force didn't change, but peak force was higher on the group that was doing the cluster sets. Sorry about that. Although percentage changes in timeframes of 0 to 80 and 0 to 100 milliseconds were greater for the inter-rep rest group compared to the traditional rest group or traditional training group, triceps brachii thickness increased similarly for both groups. So you could get swole both ways. These results suggest that inter-rep rest may induce greater increases in maximum strength and greater increases in the rate of force development. Okay, so the rate of force development, let's think about a shot putter. Okay, let's think about you're pushing as an offensive lineman. Okay, so if I can push faster, get to my peak force faster than you, and we have an equal peak force, but I can hit it quicker, I'm going to move you first and get you out of that position. And if I'm stronger also, if I have a better high-end, top-end position, then based off of cluster set training, I'm going to win. If we're talking about football, wrestling, field hockey, whatever it is, okay? And this just suggests that I think this is the way to look at this type of research. What's up, Keist? Is that we want to look at it as it's not the end-all, be-all. We know cluster sets work. We know the Mattis cluster set works because I've provided those videos. I've given you the examples of that. We know that they work, but then when we're going to use them should really be determined by what is needed, what type of response is needed, okay? So if we're looking at it like, when can we use cluster sets? We want to use it when we need to see a big spike in strength. We want to use it when we need to have a high level of rate of force development. But we also want to make sure that we're not doing it so close to a peak that it could really hinder our peak because there's too much volume at such a high intensity. So that would look at that's where we would say comprehension phase, ascension phase. Probably more so in the ascension phase is where we're going to use those cluster sets, and that in turn is what's going to elicit that big time response. I hope that was enjoyable for you guys. Let me know what you think about that. Is anybody using cluster sets in their training? Anybody getting swole off of cluster sets, changing that architecture of your tricep? So now we're going to get into insanity. I'm going to try to answer these questions, okay? Let me go over and alter this rep range article. I'm going to take that off. Okay. Now I'm having a little bit of a problem here still with my computer glitching out on me. There we go. I'm 15. I've only been working out for a little less than half a year, and my numbers are bench 270, squat 420, deadlift 505 on the hex bar. Oh no, hex bar 605, deadlift 505. Is there any way insanity? Only 15 and you're hitting those numbers? That's crazy. Crazy. Is there any way I can improve without stunting my growth? My first question to insanity would be, insanity, why would getting stronger stunt your growth? That would be my first question. Real one just asked, what is a cluster set? So a cluster set would be, you do a rep. Let's say you're at like 95% of your max. You hit it for a rep, you rest 30 seconds, you hit it for a rep, and then you rest 2.5 minutes, and that's one set. So you have like a shorter time frame between your reps, or actually it'd be a lengthened time frame between your reps. So you have a little bit of time to recover and then express strength at that high intensity. So for insanity, I believe as long as insanity is eating well, he's doing his mobility, he's sleeping well, there's no evidence that stunting your growth is going to occur. Okay, there is zero evidence that stunting your growth happens from lifting weights. Zero. There's been pediatric medical journals that have put out stances on this, and they have all said there's no evidence. The British Medical Journal has issued an entire response, okay, around pediatric strength training. I'm actually going to go into PubMed right now, and I'm going to try and find this just to help you guys out. So to answer Insanity's question, I don't think it's of any type of concern. So let's go into British Medical Journal, or I believe it was a British Medical Journal. Let's say pediatric resistance training. Let's see. I hope this comes up right away. Guidelines for use and interpretation of assays for autophagy. Let's see here. Does weightlifting stunt growth? I'm trying to get this real quick. Pediatric lifting. Does anything pop up? Pediatric infectious diseases, youth resistance training, updated position paper. Okay, so this is the Journal of Strength and Conditioning. I will put this in the, I think I can put this in the chat. This is from 2009, but there's a more recent one online. There's a more recent one online that I'll try to find for you guys for maybe next week. But yeah, check that one out. That's from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning. Now, Keist had asked, I just put that into the chat there. So that's one of the papers from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning. Actually, here it is. Feigenbaum, right here. I found it just by accident. All right. Jason, can we add these into the research papers too as well? Thank you. You're the best. Okay, so I just put in, this is from Feigenbaum, and this is the mythology of youth resistance training. This was updated in 2022. There's going to be a link that says DOI. You can click on that link, and that's going to provide you. So my response to Insanity is to check out these peer-reviewed resistance-based journals, or peer-reviewed research journals, sorry. Take those peer-reviewed research journals that talk about does lifting stunt growth, read them, and then provide them to, if your parents are confused about this or if your doctor's confused, because these are from the British Journal of Sports Medicine, and they go over fractures, stuff like that, and what happens with growth. So check that out. Dead to pull exercise and rep range. Dead to pull exercise and rep range. I don't know what that question is referring to. Dead to pull exercise and rep range. Let's say snatch, grip, deadlift. 6 sets of 3. That's my answer. So Keist had asked us a question, okay? He took caffeine too late in the day. And so let's say if I weigh 100 kilos for simple math's purpose, right? I should take about 2.5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, of 2.5 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight. So if I weigh 100 kilos, I should take about 250 milligrams. That's where I want to start. I should use that as my guideline. Okay, so I start at that point. And then if I don't feel anything, maybe I go to 3 milligrams per kilo or 3.5 milligrams per kilo. I shouldn't go above 5.5 to 6 would be my recommendation. Now, Keist, will 3x10 maximum intensity build strength? No, I do not believe so. Insanity. Keist is asking, if I have caffeine too late in the day, what can I do? What can I do to deal with that, right? So let's say you have caffeine at 6 o'clock, you hit these huge lifts, you go like crazy, you hit these monster PRs, and then what ends up occurring is you can't sleep. You're staring at the ceiling. So there's a couple things. Post-mortem, what I would do is if I had too much caffeine later in the day, I would still make sure that in the morning I get sunlight as early as possible to try and make sure I still have all those things established with my circadian rhythm. The most important thing that I think would be increasing your dose of magnesium a little bit at night. Okay, so if you take 400 or 500 milligrams of magnesium, I would go to like 800 or 1,000, because that, and make sure it's glycinate or threonate. Okay, that's going to help calm you down quite a bit. The third thing, make sure all your lights are off. Make sure that you're only using like candles for about an hour and a half. That's going to help your body adapt and start to calm down. This might sound crazy, but I also think you should play really, really chill music. Get chill music rolling and try to meditate, try to pray if you're religious, whatever you need to do to really start to calm down. Steve just said, I've done 9 milligrams per kilo for the day with 300 being at 3 p.m. You're crazy, Steve. You're crazy. What do you drink? What's your drink of choice? What's everybody's favorite flavor of energy drinks? What's your favorite flavor? I've always wondered that. I don't have my notes here, so we got to make sure that we track this. So that would be my next thing, Keith, would be lights are off, try to meditate, try to do prayers. And then, that last thing would be some people, some states you can have access to medical things that most places say not to use. That would be my last thing. That'd be up to your country, and in the U.S. it's up to your state. That can help a lot. Some athletes will use that because it can help them actually calm down before bed. I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm saying that I know people that do that if they have caffeine too late in the day. Steve's coming in with that white gummy bear rain. So we're trying to figure out what's everybody's favorite flavor of an energy drink. Okay, so Neaton, Thakor, second pull and deadlift, he starts hitching and he gets stuck. Okay, so we'll do a little demonstration here. This is my favorite demonstration for all of training and performance. We get here, okay? I also wanted to write down something there. So we get here, we get past the knee, and we start going like this. And we just, our head's starting to bobble like crazy. We're getting lightheaded, and we can't extend the hips through, okay? So what happens is, typically when we get past the knee, we've already got pretty substantial knee extension, and we've got to follow up with some hip extension. So what I would recommend, okay, is first, we've got to break that down. And you got to say, like, is it the quads? Is it the hamstrings? The other issue is that right past the knee, that's when major co-contractions are happening between the quad and the hamstring. It's stabilizing that knee joint. And so what has to happen then is you try to identify, typically that will be hips, all hamstrings into the hip, okay? So then we've got to look at, okay, are we doing, let's say an easy one, glute bridges, okay, something like that. Are we doing pull-throughs? And I think that this is where I will call out some powerlifting-based training, is that we'll do pull-throughs and we'll do kettlebell swings and we'll do glute bridges with 900 pounds, but we don't do a power clean, or we don't do a full clean. And I think the problem that I have there is that if you get strong at hitting a power clean on your dynamic days, okay, so that would be on our impulse day. If you get strong at hitting power cleans on impulse day, or even snatch high pulls, that's where you're going to get this rapid recruitment of hip extension. So then what happens is that when it's happening at a slower speed, your body knows how to hip extend and then raise your chest. Okay, so hip extend and raise your chest. And then that's how you get through that hitching point. It's still going to happen at some point. There's always going to be that level that you get to, that you hit that. But if we can raise the ceiling on that, then that's when we're going to hit monster PRs. So to deal with that hitching point, you've got to hammer through with some types of hip extension work. And I almost always would recommend, snatch RDL, stiff-legged deadlifts, snatch high pulls, clean pulls, power cleans, full cleans, snatches, hip snatches. That's going to help quite a bit, really depending upon the time of your training and where you want to be. I think that's like the big factor that we've just got to bring into play. All right, so we're going to get back into the questions here. Hey, no problem for those videos. Everything can work. I got a pain when jumping behind knee on the outside. Okay, that's typically going to be jumper's knee. Do you know what happened from your experience? I would say jumper's knee. Man, my computer keeps shutting off, and I'm like about to write something down based off of what Keith just said, and it went off. Okay, there we go. It's back on. Juice Monster Mango Loco. Mango Loco. All right, dude, mango's my favorite fruit. I just smashed a mango like 20 minutes before I got in here. 150 milligrams of caffeine. Bye-bye sleep. 150 to 250 milligrams. Okay, so going back to that question about the knee, and I'm going to answer Brandon's question next. typically jumper's knee, from my experience, is going to be prevalent a lot with Yash. Thank you. Boom. Let me answer this question quick. So typically jumper's knee is going to be related to triple jumpers, long jumpers, or bigger dudes doing jumps. Okay. Freaks doing jumps. Okay. So what we can do is just make sure, a lot of people, when they do a full range of motion, they'll feel it in the back of their knee if they have jumper's knee. So roll out the hamstrings, make sure that your glutes are mobile, make sure that you're hitting these positions at slower speeds. I would back off from jumping, maybe just drop your jumping down to like half the amount of sets, execute the half amount of those sets, and then over time build back into hitting those jumps and hitting those bigger lifts. Sled work is also going to pay off. Some slow eccentric work with RDLs will also pay off, and I also recommend doing like reflexive training to maintain that speed. So Yash is asking, what about high rep heavy kettlebell swings? So he's saying, like, let's get a 50K kettlebell, let's get an 80K kettlebell, something wild, right? Something wild. I've got 150, so what's about 70K, right? Okay. Negative, you won't lose all your athleticism and speed. So he's basically saying, my computer just shut off again on my screen, so I can't really see that. Okay, there we go. Okay, so he's saying if he does high rep kettlebell swings versus running, he can do a 5.5 miler, but find it hard to recover when running versus swings. Rather do the swings. So he would say, so Yash is asking, why is it that hitting swings I can recover from, but running I can't recover from? My first question would be, is squatting A to G better? Squatting A to G is better than 90 degrees. We talked about that with our soccer study. Okay, so Yash is doing it with 53 to 106 pounds. He's saying he can recover a lot better from running or from doing kettlebell swings than he can from running. I would say, one, how much mileage are you doing in a week? How many miles are you running every single week? Are you running 20 miles? You're running 30? You're running 35 miles? I would assume it's like 15 miles if 5.5 causes you some issues. The next thing would then be what shoes are you running in? And then where do you feel the poor recovery is happening from running? Is it your wind? Is it your hips, your knees? Where do you feel that the most? So then we've got to try to figure that out. How are you warming up for the running? How long are you actually doing the kettlebell swings? Is the kettlebell swings equated? Is it equated to effort? Okay, so if you look at when you run 5.5 miles, are you holding you're probably holding a heart rate around 155 to 165 for anywhere from 50 to 65 minutes, right? Like that's a long time. So when you do kettlebell swings, is that equated with the amount of work? That's the next big aspect. It's like, is that work equal? I think that's got to be brought up to speed. And then what's your protein like? And then are you doing mobility work? One thing I love about kettlebell swings is that it's always lengthening the hip. It's always lengthening the hamstrings, the lower back. You're getting some good trunk work and trunk position in. It can help with locking out that deadlift if you're driving through the heels really, really well. It's not crazy. There's not a lot of ground reaction forces. I think that's the big factor that people forget. Okay, so about 15 miles. So sometimes, you're working on breaking a 5-minute mile. That'd be, get up to 20, 25 miles and work on that speed. So the other thing is that I believe people forget about running is what people forget about running is that ground reaction forces are real. Okay. Every time that you put your foot on the ground when you're running, there's a large amount of force going back into your body. So you've got to make sure that your ankles, your knees, your hips, your lower back are stable. I actually hurt my back running. This is going back about 2.5 weeks. I turned while I was running at a pretty nice clip to see if a car was coming so that I could cross. And when I actually turned, I actually tweaked my back a little bit. So I think the big factor here is just try to recognize what's equated, what's not. If you want to keep trying to improve your mileage, you've got to make sure you run a little bit more frequently, and then work on that speed, the speed stuff with hill sprints. I think that's also going to help. Keith just said 2 weeks of training, missed 2 weeks of training on peak strength due to life stuff. Do I start from the week I stopped at, or just follow the program and just miss those 2 weeks? I don't have a peak day. If you don't have a peak day, Keith, I would actually go back to where you missed. That's what I would do. Go back to where you missed. And restart those because you'll keep that rolling forward then. Sorry, just spit water on me. Is training 3 times a day on certain days overkill? For example, sprinting in the morning, skills in the afternoon, gym in the evening. I think that's quite a bit, Sean. I don't think you need to do 3. I did want to go back to Vinny's question. So Vinny asked this question about squatting ass to grass versus doing partial squats. And I used last week or 2 weeks ago, we had some comments on our soccer video. I used that as an example where oftentimes people believe that because of these specific joint angles that we're in, if we're in these specific joint angles, that's where we should train. Now so they'll think that, and that's not always accurate. Now, I will preface this with there are some elite level athletes that when they train in specific joint angles, will see a very big positive return. But I believe most athletes, okay, based off of the science, based off of literature, most athletes benefit substantially from full range of motion squats. So in this study, there was actually a study on elite level soccer players, football players, and they saw a much greater return in strength and speed on the soccer field in the group that was doing full range back squats. And I think there was like 35 elite level soccer players. So just keep that research paper in the back of your mind when you're thinking about this as you move forward. F Iron. Which program from your website would you suggest for someone who's doing weightlifting as a hobby, but he likes to train 5 days a week? If you're doing weightlifting as a hobby, I would argue getting peak strength. Get the Peak Strength app. You're doing this as a hobby. It's going to help you keep making progress. You can do snatches. You can do cleans. You can do squats. You can do single leg stuff. There's a whole bunch of work in there. I would use Peak Strength. And if you don't want to use Peak Strength and you want to do straight up weightlifting, like actual weightlifting, start with the Snatch Improvement Program. The Snatch Improvement Program is available at garagestrength.com. So it's going to help your snatches, if you don't snatch that well. All right, so Ant-Man just asked, what's the best exercise to increase ankle and forearm or wrist strength? Okay, so I get this question quite a bit, and I think we almost should do a video on this. Alexander just said, I know I asked about Jacob's knee pain. I have patellar tendinopathy, and I'm wondering if it's possible for me to rehab it while still lifting heavy like he did. I would say yes, but you're going to have to decrease volume. So you're only going to be able to lift heavy like 1 or 2 days, and you've got to find a routine. If you've got a patellar tendinopathy, find a specific routine that really helps you feel good. Use that on the heavy day, like really, really hard. Get into that work really, really well, okay? And then you pick 1 or 2 days a week that you can go heavier. I would probably start with just 1. And then if you can handle that higher intensity training, then that's what you do for that first time frame, okay? And then add in another day if your knee starts to feel a little bit better. Now, going back to this question, this is a great question I get about structure, bone structure. So a lot of people will say, they'll actually look at me and they'll be like, man, your forearms are my wrists. My wrists are huge. And they are. Like if you saw pictures of my grandfather, when he was younger, his shoulders were super, super broad. Kai, what's up? So if we have a larger bone structure, we likely can produce more force, okay? That's how that works, okay? A lot of people will also say, I've got really skinny ankles. So they roll their ankles more or anything along those lines. Now, that doesn't matter as much because really skinny ankles typically will tell you that you're going to be really, really fast. Okay, now you might not be the best, let's say, wrestler or fighter, but you're probably going to be really, really explosive and really quick. Okay, so a lot of people will say, how can we improve the structure of our wrist, or what are strengthening exercises? PVC pipe walks, plantar flexion isometric holds in a split squat position, forearm roller, reverse curls, any type of grip work on the brachioradialis. That's also going to trigger some size. And the other big thing is that we want to do more brachioradialis work because that's going to lead to more muscular mass. If we have more mass on our bones, the bone density we get quite a bit more dense in those specific bones as well. That's how osteoporosis is treated with a lot of individuals. Hey, Start resistance training. You can prevent that from happening. All right. So, do you think programming snatch deads for the ACFT would help with lower back? Yes, absolutely. Is that the firefighter training, Steve? Absolutely, I believe that. I think that if that's the firefighter training, ACFT, I'm pretty sure that's what that is. I should look that up. But that's a great way. Now, Kai just asked, should I do single leg squats for my absolute strength movement on leg power day and impulse day for a whole cycle of parabolic periodization if I'm trying to increase speed for football? Okay, so to translate that, Kai is asking, okay, plays football, okay? He wants to increase his strength and he wants to increase his speed. If we look at increasing strength, we're going to do that on a leg power day. If we're looking at increasing speed and power output, that's going to be on an impulse day. So we're looking at day one, leg power day, day 4, impulse day. Now, what he's asking is it possible to always do unilateral movements? Okay, so is it possible to always do unilateral movements to increase absolute strength? A lot of people will think, nah, we should just be doing bilateral movements. You've got a heavier load on your back. Just focus on back squats, front squats, power cleans, full cleans, deadlifts, whatever. I would argue, especially specific to football, doing single leg squats, using a single leg, pad, roller. Oh, Army Combat Fitness Test. That was so ridiculous, Steve. Sorry. Yes, snatch grip deadlift for the Army Combat Fitness Test, 100%, I believe, is a fantastic way to strengthen the back and the core. So going back to this question, all geared around the question entirely geared around, geez, I lost my train of thought because I was thinking about how stupid I was around Kai's question. Sorry, Kai. Is that I believe that if you're doing single leg squats, step ups, even walking lunges, your glutes, hamstrings, posterior chain will be lit up. And if you're still doing heavier cleans, okay, you could be doing heavy cleans pretty consistently. You're going to be perfectly fine in the realm of absolute strength, because we've got to look at, for most sports, okay, do you need to deadlift 600 pounds or do you need to clean 315 to 400? It's usually going to be in the realm of 315 to 400. So that's where you're going to see your best return on training. So keep that in mind. Vasant's 100, currently 116, need to wrestle 125 for college coaches. What me to be 140? Should I do high reps or low reps? You should do both. You should do high reps and low reps. And I would go into peak strength, okay? Get peak strength. Click on the wrestling program. This program is freaking phenomenal. It's going to lay down everything that you need to do from the exposure phase all the way to the summit phase and realization phase. You're going to get extraordinarily strong. That question of high reps or low reps, that's going to be answered for you. So you're going to be able to execute that as well as you possibly can. And in the meantime, head over to the Garage Strength channel. I'm trying to fix this cord. Head over to the Garage Strength channel, and when you're at the Garage Strength channel, I'm going to move that over a little, see if that helps. My screen just keeps blacking out. And pick up the High Performance Nutrition Program. You pick up the High Performance Nutrition Program, and then in there, you'll get information on, all right, I need to eat bigger. I need to have more volume of food. I need to actually hold myself accountable to go from 116 to 135 to 140. And then in the meantime, your strength levels are going to explode because you're eating more protein, you're training more, you feel better. You're on a specifically guided program. Now you're a freak. Now you're training like a freak. You're showing up every single day. I want to be held accountable. I want to show up in the gym. I want to get work done. What do I want to be remembered for? I want to be remembered for that kid who was 116 pounds sopping wet, but then I committed to training 5 days a week. 5 days a week for a year on end. And while I was training for 5 days a week, I improved the way I ate, and then I hit those monster weights, and then I got up to 140, and then I cut to 125 during wrestling season, and then I hit the AA, All-American. That's what we want to look at, okay? That's what I think that everybody should be thinking about. Steve, I talked to Cody yesterday, actually. Connor Pfizer, I'll ask him. I was talking to Cody yesterday. Talking about they got a brand new they got the South Dakota State's wrestling program just got updated 2 days ago, or no, yesterday. Tyler, for athlete strength rather than bodybuilding strength, should you go more weight, less reps, or less weight, more reps? It depends on the time of year, but what I was just sharing earlier was that cluster set work. And I think that cluster set work is a way to get really heavy weight, a little bit lower reps, and it's going to lead to you blowing up that absolute strength. And I think that, you could go back and watch that in the beginning if you want, but that's a really good guided way to help you with your overall performance. Keith just asked, when are we going to get athlete cooking videos? Keith, I'm sure that my cameraman, producer, Jason, is behind the wall here smiling because we've talked about putting a kitchen in for quite a while. We've talked about going over that stuff and implementing more things around nutrition, supplements, energy drinks, what we talked about earlier, things along that lines. Best 3 pull workouts. Okay, so I assume, how many times a week should I do agility and plyo workouts? 1 to 2 times a week. Do an athlete day, and then impulse day can also piggyback off of that. What are the 3 best pull workouts? I assume is a question on 3 best pull exercises. High day and peak strength for 39-year-old. Of course, my computer blips out. I'll read that when my computer comes back up. Amateur league basketball player to keep up with the young ones. Good idea. Absolutely. Salomon, I believe that would be a fantastic way. And you can start with just 2 to 3 days of training to try and stay athletic, stay mobile, stay explosive, stay strong, and then add a day as you start to feel better. Now going back to that, the 3 best pull, the 3 best pull exercises, I would argue, as much crap as I give something like the deadlift's a fantastic pulling movement. It's very practical. It's fun. I wouldn't say for sports performance, but I would say that deadlifts are great when it comes down to like what they're actually great for. Now, I would also say, here's a good one, rope climbs as a pull. And then finally, let's finish that off with I also look at like cleans and snatches as pulls. So I would even just use a snatch or a clean. Yash just said, I want to run 3 marathons before I'm 30. I'm 25. The app has marathon training, right? Yes, the app has marathon training, and that's actually what I'm using in the app right now. I've been playing around with a whole bunch of single leg stuff, and I take the marathon program, and I'll hit that program for like 2 to 3 of them, and then I try to play around with other exercises that I want to bring into the app later on. And I have been playing around with some of the stuff that we're doing with Athletic Fitness. So Athletic Fitness is a program that's going to come out July 10th. Okay, so we're about, a month away, maybe a little bit less than a month away, like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away. So we're about 2.5 weeks away from releasing this Athletic Fitness program, and it's going to have cardio in the program. It's going to have muscle mass bodybuilding. It's going to have explosive-based training and strength training. So it's one of those programs that you can go in, and it's super, super intuitive based off of what your goals are and based off of how you're feeling, just to help you, get in. And we're even going to have testing in it. It's going to be freaking awesome. What are the 5 best S&C podcasts right now? Coming in at a good number 1 would be the Garage Strength podcast. What are some good rep ranges and exercises for Muay Thai fighters? Okay, you got to be extremely explosive. All right. For Muay Thai fighters, I would say doing single leg squats, doing step ups, fantastic. Doing step ups with a safety bar while your knee is banded is also going to help maintain trunk control while you're raising that knee. One thing we've got to keep in mind is that there's a large amount of trunk control from the abs into the hip. Okay. And if we can get used to doing that aggressively over a long period of time and sustain that high energy output, that's going to help you quite a bit when it comes down to Muay Thai. So I also think you've got to be doing skips. You've got to be doing sprints. You've got to be doing, lighter movements that are power cleans, power snatches. All of those things are going to be fantastic. The Flash is asking how much volume is needed for explosive gains. This is another one. I'm looking at one of these discussions here. This is another one, is that if we are going to be talking about how much volume for explosive gains, okay, how are we going to achieve that? And I would argue that doing power cleans, doing full cleans, doing back squats, still volume for explosive gains. So if you ask me, it's going to be 15 to 20 sets a week. That's going to be how to increase that quite a bit. All right, let's go into how about periodization? First summit targeted at September as the season starts, and then maybe another 3-month cycle till early July. Yes, for sure. Salomon, that's exactly how I would set that up. That should help you quite a bit with that overall training for peak strength. And then fun question. My son and I had a debate after Garage Strength Seminar. Thanks for coming out. Can your athletes hold a person over their head that is similar in weight to what your athletes can max snatch? Ooh, that'd be really hard. That's like a very interesting conversation. And I don't know. I don't know. They'd have to be trained on those acrobats. So I don't know. Jabari just hit 500 subs. Nice job, Jabari. I've always thought less is more for explosiveness, Yash. I think it depends on where you're at, but also remember, I was saying back squats would be included in there. How are weightlifters from Indonesia and Thailand so strong? Is it because of genetics or a really good training program? I would ask, Thailand had quite a bit of positive drug tests. They've had quite a lot of issues with that. Indonesia, they got a good program. But yeah, Thailand, I would just go look at the doping. Go look at doping control. I think that's something. Miguel, thanks for the advice, Dane. Been watching your videos the last year. Very consistent. I started listening to your videos and advice. I took 2 jobs, one being roofing. So thank you for keeping me strong as F. So you're a freak. Miguel is a freak. Working out on the roofs and still getting training done. Chad asked, does the app give you access to everything, or is it each program is a specific price or add-on? So you go in, you download, you go in and you would select your sport that you're training for with that specific peak date, and then it lays out the program that you need to follow specific to your needs and what you have training-wise. It's even showing you, all right, you only have this type of equipment. We're going to base the program off of this type of equipment. And then it's going to teach you what weights to put on the bar. It'll actually tell you what weights to put on the bar based off of how you're informing the algorithm. So it's really an intuitive, innovative training partner / coach who's in your pocket. I like to think about it as Dane is in your pocket. He's yelling at you. He's telling you what weights to do. He's telling you what exercises to do. He's trying to get you to push a little bit harder. And that's also like one thing that we want to do with the community is like, we've got a really powerful YouTube live community. We also have a very powerful Discord channel. So if you guys want to subscribe to the Discord channel, also the community poll or the community aspect of YouTube is another big one. And then we've got our YouTube private lives. That's $10 a month. And there's only about 20 to 25 people in there. So it's a very, much more intimate discussion, very specific. I try to do a 20 to 30 minute lecture and then go into answering everybody's questions. So those are ways that we can continuously develop the community and the group to be more cohesive. Will Garage Strength make your own supplement line, energy drink included? Keist, no comment. No comment. No comment. You'll see sometime. That's true. I meant exercises like the single leg bound for squats. Okay. So Yash is saying, can we clarify what is GAA? What would GAA programming be? Is that the Gaelic football? Because we still have to do that video. Does peak strength have a max out bench option? So in athletic fitness, we're adding in testing, and you will be able to max out your bench and actually test that. That's where some of the really neat updates are going to be coming into play. How beneficial is a bench press for hammer? Not very beneficial at all. So Yash, jump on a Discord. It's freaking sweet. Hey, Dane, do you think I need a trainer to learn how to clean and snatch? Now, this is one thing. Flash, we've done a whole core exercises for soccer video already. This goes again. If you go into peak strength and you're doing snatches, there's technical instruction videos inside the app that are going to show you how to actually do it. And we've got that also on our YouTube channel. So you can look on the YouTube channel. So Gaelic football and hurling, we did not bring out a program. The program that I would recommend using would be football or lacrosse. Probably lacrosse for hurling, Gaelic football. So for both of those, I would say probably lacrosse. We are going to be doing that video on the Peak Strength channel. if you want to learn how to clean and snatch, I would use our YouTube videos, and I would also use the technical instruction videos inside of Peak Strength, because they do a really good job explaining what positions to be in, how to execute your technique, and how to optimize that for long term. So yeah. Anyway, let's get back to this. I'm going to answer 2 more questions, and then I got to go. This is a crazy day for me. I've got a big day ahead. I'm glad you guys adapted to us changing that time from 2 p.m. Eastern or 3 p.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. That's some things that occasionally that I've got to do. We do have field hockey inside of the app. How would you say I should implement your 5-day program I was doing originally with my high school football lift? This is a tough one. Okay. So what I would do is I would look at the main lifts that you're getting from your high school football team. Let's say they're doing a heavy leg day, a heavy upper body day, and then like a bodybuilding day. If you have a heavy leg lift with your football team, with your high school team, do that, execute that. And then you could do plyometric work after. Okay, so like 3 or 4 hours later, you can get plyometrics done. On that upper body day, if you do a heavy upper body lift, a couple hours later, if you want to lift, if you feel like you need to train, go do some bodybuilding work. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, or 2 or 3 days later, then you can hit that impulse day or some more athlete specific type work. So that's how I would set that up. But it's got to come back to being focused on what you're getting from your actual coaches first, and then supplementing it with what we're providing. So how heavy should I lift for power exercises like cleans, trap bar, jumps? I would try and figure out how you're moving well. Push yourself to that top limit. Back off by about 10 to 15%. Hit a lot of reps. Work on that technique. And then over time, you're going to get more proficient with those movements, and you're going to execute at high speeds. I'm going to head out. Thank you, freaks, for tuning in. This is our Peace shirt. Head over to GarageStrength.com if you want to pick up our sweet new merch, and this is where we have our shirt for that peace symbol. Okay, and then also head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS store. At some point, freaks, you guys have to begin your journey to attain peak strength. Until next time, peace.